need to think carefully about where we go now in confronting the consequences of September 11th regarding al-Qaeda. At the moment, it is all too easy for al-Qaeda to recruit new foot soldiers. Our policy and strategy fundamentally needs to change. I recently published an article entitled Al-Qaeda Strikes Back, which is in the current edition of Foreign Affairs. Don't worry, I'm not going to bore you by reading to you what I wrote in that article. But what I do want to do today is continue to develop some of the themes that I laid out in that article about the status of the al-Qaeda organization today and the threat that it poses to our country. The promise of Bush is that there is no place on earth where you can hide that I cannot find you. We will see which promise is fulfilled. Afghans have seen which promise has been fulfilled and are coming back to the Taliban, unfortunately. There are at least 3 key reasons for the Taliban and al-Qaeda resurgence in Afghanistan. As long as NATO keeps forces in Afghanistan, the Taliban will not march back into victory in Kabul.
You've painted a very consistent picture on from a macroscopic point of view, and you suggested that we need a grand strategy that would be consistent with that large-scale view. I have 2 questions. First one is, why do we lack that grand strategy? And my second question is, I think, if I understood you correctly, you emphasized an immediate focus on Afghanistan, but you did not mention Iraq, and I'd be curious as to why.
I believe that we have had difficulty coming to grips with the magnitude of the challenge that al-Qaeda poses. I think the Bush administration, of which I was a part at the time in 2001, underestimated the al-Qaeda threat before September 11th. I think the President, in the months after September 11th, got it and focused properly on what to do in Afghanistan. But then I think he lost attention, and our eye drifted away from the ball that mattered, brought by the allure of Iraq. And I can't tell you why we did that. I think that's going to be historian's $64 million question about the Bush administration.
There are 3 comments I'd like to make. One, the al-Qaeda did not exist in Iraq before our attack. Item 2, the problems in northern Lebanon with Fatah al-Islam and the Lebanese government. And the third item was in Gaza. Last year, the Israeli government and the Israeli troops cordoned Gaza and prevented any of their produce or any of their goods to be shipped out, thus causing more hatred for the Israelis by Hamas and the rest of the Palestinians. Just your comments on those 3 items, please.
I think we're in violent agreement on all 3 points. There was no al-Qaeda in Iraq before September 11th. There is not a shred of evidence of a connection between the Saddam Hussein government and the attacks of September 11th. The most infamous meeting that never took place in history, that between an Iraqi intelligence officer and Mohammed Atta, has been thoroughly discredited, and the Czech government has said they made a mistake. It never happened. But as I said, al-Qaeda had a plan for what to do when the Americans went in. Second, you're absolutely right about Fatah al-Islam, but that's not unusual. Mr. Zarqawi was a thug, a petty criminal, a violent abuser of people. The al-Qaeda movement attracts these kinds of people. It's not a group of nice people. These are violent, vicious terrorists. But they can be very, very effective. They certainly do not represent the Palestinian people. So 2009 becomes, I think, the year that we need to reverse this struggle and begin building the grand strategy and the grand coalition we need to win it. Thank you.